like a K-pop star and still have higher testosterone levels than a muscle-bound warrior from the freaking Himalayas out here looking like a freaking Mortal Kombat fighter. Hi, welcome back to the Minx28 YouTube channel. Just a quick foresight here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Did I just make a word? I think I just made a word. For me making a word, you should like and subscribe. The Olympics has had its fair share of controversy, as any Olympics does. When the world gets together over a collection of a few sports, there is always some sort of controversy. Taiwan can't be called Taiwan. North and South Korea sometimes compete as the same country, and sometimes don't. Many of the athletes who participate get paid little to nothing per the IOC, yet each iteration of the Olympics makes billions of dollars. Israel is allowed to participate despite carrying out a genocide, yet Russia isn't. And many right-wingers normally use this time to complain about some random woke athlete that is competing if there is nothing else going on in the news cycle, which is wild. Flint, Michigan residents are still in court over their drinking water issues. Cop killings are still so common that someone dies unjustly to a cop's gun just about daily. And our Congress passed such watered down crap that it might as well be a jug of Kool-Aid with no fucking sugar in it.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no! Oh yeah!
The gap between the rich and ever-shrinking middle class is as wide as Russia, and we are currently under the threat of Project 2025, despite the conservatives already violating the rights of women over their body by removing abortion rights, and one strangely Uncle Tom-like justice commenting about how gays should be next, after he compared gay people to dogs. Real strange, Thomas. Have you looked in the mirror? But to be fair, in the land of insanity that America has become, the Olympics should be the focus. And it seems Snoop Dogg, being one of the biggest vocal ambassadors for Team USA, is not enough to unite us all, which would be pretty dope. Instead, the topic of the times has something to do with someone who isn't even American.
An Olympic controversy feared and foreseen. Punches as ferocious as the row. A bout that faced calls to be blocked, and in the end was abandoned after just 46 seconds. Italian Angela Carini could take no more, feeling unfairly overpowered by Imane Khelif. Why this attempt to offer consolation was rejected. The Algerian cleared to compete in Paris despite being disqualified from the World Championships last year after failing an unspecified gender eligibility test. We saw Carini leaving, awaiting checks on a potentially broken nose.
Leaving the venue, Angela Carini doesn't want to speak. She was heard saying inside that this fight is unjust. It's already being seen as one of the most contentious contests ever at an Olympics.
Recently, it was this Australian boxer facing Khelif.
It's not fair to target an individual. It's not fair to put other people at risk. So, it needs to be held. The conversation needs to be held at the highest level.
Olympic organisers fear a witch hunt, insisting if it says female in your passport, you can compete as a woman.
The testosterone is not a perfect test. Many women can have testosterone which is in what would be called male levels, and still be women and still compete as women. So this panacea, this idea that suddenly you do one test for testosterone and that sorts everything out, not the case, I'm afraid.
Complicating the issue is an IOC integrity dispute with World Boxing's governing body. Clarity is needed according to the boss of athletics, which has guidelines dealing with high levels of testosterone.
You know, if you have a clear-cut policy, then however tough that decision is to arrive at, you have the policy. If you don't, then that is a challenge, and boxing has a challenge, of course.
Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni complained that Carini was not able to fight on an equal footing. But Algeria's Olympic Committee criticised malicious attacks on Khelif. It's complex for the sport and spectators.
The Olympics is showing off what the human body can do. Then why actually are we still doing it based on a binary when we know that there are so many differences.
The People's Democratic Republic of Algeria is a country in northern Africa containing around 45 million people, with the official state religion being that of Sunni Islam. It has one of the largest economies in all of Africa and gives Europe lots of that sweet, sweet, sweet natural gas. It also has some very oppressive laws in place against the LGBTQ+ community. According to Equaldex.com, the public opinion polls of that entire community show that an overwhelming 74% are against the community, with imprisonment and almost guaranteed punishment, no housing or anti-discrimination protections, and gender-affirming care being completely banned in the country. But that doesn't matter if you listen to an unfortunate set of lies which have been laid out leading us to this moment in time.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god, stop your fucking lying.
Transphobia has entered the ring of a women's boxing match in the Olympics, and the two fighters who were fighting are both biological women.
All right, let's just admit it. That didn't happen.
Let's get to the first set of lies. According to BBC Sports Division analyst Sean Kearns, this all started back in 2023 when the IBA, International Boxing Association, made a confusing decision on Algerian boxer Imane Khelif and Taiwanese fighter Yu-ting. Kearns states that despite the pair being disqualified from the 2023 Women's World Championship after the IBA, which organized the event, claimed they had failed gender eligibility tests. But what exactly does this mean? What is a gender eligibility test? And did they fail it?
What?
Well, a gender eligibility test determines the biological gender at birth, based on chromosomes present in the body, which no sane trans person would argue against, and understanding that is a huge step in processing their situation and progressing. But they are a trans woman, so they're a form of woman. How did these two women fail the test?
Sure is good to see the Navy getting their PT in. Listen, did you know?
They didn't. In fact, they didn't even take the chromosome test. They took anti-doping tests, one of which focuses in on hormones. These are two very, very different things. One test tells you if it's a boy or girl, but without the wildfire excitement that usually puts a state into a panic and comes with most gender reveal events that used to happen about 5 years ago. And the other just takes blood and determines from that blood what are the hormone levels of the person. As Kearns continues, the IBA said the tests were sent to two different laboratories that are accredited by the World Anti-Doping Agency. However, WADA has told BBC Sport it does not oversee gender tests, and its work only relates to anti-doping matters. The IOC said last week the aggression aimed towards Khelif and Lin was based entirely on this arbitrary decision, which was taken without proper procedure. So, essentially, the discredited IBA, which technically has no power over amateur boxing, officially in terms of the IOC right now, as the IOC removed this in 2019 and released some bullshit conclusion during a non-related Olympic event a year ago, and this sparked a rumor which claimed that both these women had high levels of testosterone. Not that they were men.
Oh no, you can't be serious. That is some bullshit right there.
Not to mention that one of the women accused, discredited, and disrespected in this situation quite literally comes from a country where gender-affirming care is not only something that is shamed, it is completely illegal. But also, hormones are truly up in the air and dependent on various factors regardless of one's birth gender. Many guys experience a surge in testosterone during their puberty stages, which then completely falls off afterwards, during which some really avid gym goers and health-focused guys can and literally will get testosterone supplements to counter this, which, by the way, is HRT. The same thing trans people do, just the ending outcome is slightly different.
Oh, I think you're the chosen one, man. So sick!
During this time, said guys, just like any other guy, produce estrogen. That's right, no matter your gender, you produce both from the day you come out of the womb to the day you die. Your chromosome selection in the womb determines which will be on average dominant at least during your puberty stages in life. And even then, your glands, thyroids, and DNA all play parts in hormone production, functions, and levels. You can be feminine appearing as hell, like a K-pop star, and still have higher testosterone levels than a muscle-bound warrior from the freaking Himalayas out here looking like a freaking Mortal Kombat fighter. Humans are uniquely random like that, and considering there is 8 billion of us on this planet and each of us is born from a long strand of other uniquely random humans, it isn't a shocker that some girls may look masculine or some men may look feminine, especially upon approaching the peak possibility of their fitness levels, such as Khelif and Yu-ting. I mean, have you seen a female athlete before? Like a female at peak physical condition. Like, have you looked at Simone Biles, Katie Ledecky, Mia Hamm, Serena and Venus Williams, Ronda Rousey, Jessica Butner, and God, I promise to say this correctly, Rhea Mommy Ripley from the WWE. She could crush my head any day of the week. I have a problem.
Stop it. Get some help.
These are all women at their peak fitness level, and as a result, this many self-conscious, unconfident men having a severe battle with sexuality would likely make the accusation at risk of their own lives that these women are not in fact women. Like, if you think they aren't women, if you seriously think that is an argument you will win, go say it to their faces. And that includes the women who support this argument and have been historically just delusional. Just let me know when and where you are going to be saying it to them so that way I can record it, because that's easy content and I will be a character witness in their favor against you in the murder trial they get shortly after. Now, am I saying that Angela Carini is not at the peak of her physical level? No. Not even close. And most importantly of all, Angela has a record in fighting of 84 wins to 24 losses, according to BoxRec.com. Even as an amateur with that amount of fighting experience, she would likely beat the dog crap out of some regular Joe who thinks he can beat her just because she is a woman. And sure, Imane's record is less than half of that, as she has 44 wins and only 9 losses, but Jordan played for much less time than LeBron. And still, the ghost of Jordan follows LeBron around everywhere he goes. But what does this defeat upon Carini have to do with the lie and transphobia that has formed in the modern conservative narrative on this? Well, the Olympics hasn't been allowing trans athletes to participate for long. This has only been allowed since 2004, but the conservative narrative has been pivoting to the culture war harder than ever since Obama won the White House. And each year, the culture war battleground has become more and more hilariously ironic and psychotic at the same time. You see, the culture war, for those who don't know, is technically not supposed to be something that conservatives actually pursue. It's just supposed to be something that they use as a boogeyman to distract voters into fearing the chance of not having a right-wing government and having some sort of socialist left-wing government, whatever the hell they think that is. They aren't supposed to act on culture war topics and definitely aren't supposed to accomplish things through it, because the end result of that is you becoming these guys.
Einen reiches Ernteregeln und Feuer und Keller hat bergen lassen.
And historically, being those guys is very, very bad. But with the arrival of Donald Trump, the culture war battleground has been something that conservatives have leaned on as they become more and more out of touch with the common person. And it's provided them with some drastic benefits, unfortunately for all of us. In the beginning, the culture war was the lying narrative that allowed America's foundation to become that of slavery. Rich whites needed poor whites to fall in line for the revolution to work, as they were the ones truly impacted by the taxes imposed by the British, because only rich people were buying a large enough portion of these items for this stuff to matter. So they gave the poor, simpler whites a narrative, one that was easy to follow and get them on their side. You aren't at the bottom of society. The slaves are, and the slaves are black. This culture war eventually ate away at itself and led to the American Civil War, as all culture wars do.
Jesus Christ.
The next narrative spun from Americans versus immigrants. During the Industrial Revolution, the Christian white Anglo-Saxon family was slowly becoming a part of the growing middle class, so they needed a target to get the middle class white Anglo-Saxon family on their side. So the rich looked around for new narratives, but the black one was already too common and essentially a thread in the story of the American fabric. So then they just turned to another group. This time the Irish, and the Asian workers, and the Jewish migrants, and the Italians arriving by their masses to the shores of America. This led to the many insults we associate today with, the different communities and stereotypes that are often thrown as slights against each community. But after World War II, that was too played out, and many members of the Irish, Jewish, and Italian communities were now prominent members of society in some way, shape, or form. But you know who wasn't? Blacks. Also, you know who also gave them more ammo ideas? Yeah, the Nazis and the Italian fascists. It literally just went full circle. Despite us literally just defeating them, a lot of the stuff we do now was just taken straight from their playbook. The Nazis and the fascist Italians condemned homosexuality, transgenderism, and any form of non-normative sexual and societal function, and so birthed the nuclear family narrative, with the women now ostracized into a category of other to add to the culture war. After all, the Nazis drove home the idea that a woman is only for home life, cooking and baby making, and being prepared to serve their husband when they got home. So many Americans thought, why couldn't American women do the same thing? Which is an insane take to take from the Nazis. It took decades for these narratives to finally come down. Just like the black slave narrative, this was because these groups, while going through the same struggles, had different views of the culture war as it targeted them and also didn't have any real links, each taking a piece and spreading the narrative in the hopes of survival for their own group. One clear example of this is the black community's widespread acceptance to this day of many of its LGBTQ+ members, leading to a vast number of increased risks for members of the community of color compared to their white counterparts, especially trans individuals. As these narratives finally began to die slow, painful deaths in certain levels and degrees, September 11, 2001 happened.
Oh my goodness, there's another one.
It seems to be on purpose.
Oh my goodness, now it's obvious, I think.
I leaned over and whispered into his right ear, a second plane hit the second tower.
And from that came a new target for the culture war. This time, instead of just internal combat, the war added fuel to the fire of the real war in the Middle East. The culture war we know today didn't find its life until around the second term of Barack Obama. And just like the Industrial Revolution culture war, the rich and the powerful teamed up to spawn a collection of playing cards to lay on the duel. Not only was the woman card revamped, but it leveled up and even began to include women in the conversation.
No, 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 no.
Even on the topic of abortion, thanks to a cornered wolf lash out of the Christian community, as their numbers had been on the steady decline. The oppressed lower classes with their many minority groups began to gain some level of progress, and with Obama being president, in a way, this, in the eyes of the rich and powerful, was a step too far, causing the right to push once again against minorities that weren't white and Christian. Blacks, Latinos, Asians, Pacific Islanders, and Africans were now all grouped together and were all portrayed in some way as a problem. The U.S. education system got too close to starting to tell the truth and had to be taken down a peg or two, beginning the narratives of CRT in elementary schools. And somehow there was a shocker that There were some teachers and even some children at varying ages that were technically members of the LGBTQ plus community, and so they were presented in an angle that was unlikable as well. And within it came the chance to target the minority of even that grouping. And that minority was transgender people. And just like how they did with poor, simpler, or middle-class Christian Americans that they pitted against poor white, Irish, Italian, and Jews, they pitted different sections of the LGBTQ plus community against each other. And this is a little injection of my own opinion here and something I feel everyone should take hold of. The culture war is stupid as hell. It always has been. Nothing has been more stupid in human society than every iteration of the culture war. It's literally just a thing used to distract the majority from the actions of the minority, which is always the real problem. It's why, for centuries, we had kings and queens, despite many of them being ineffective, crybaby man-children and never really doing their job properly. And this has literally slowed humanity in the whole of all its race to an absolute fucking crawl, okay? And right now, a fucking crawl is literally what is allowing the problems of climate change, economic collapses, societal breakdowns, and overall failing of countless humans to catch up to us quickly. Remember a decade and a half ago how little there were exploding news stories that offered the chance for the end of the world with just a couple of mistakes? Yeah, even the Cold War only had 2 instances where a true blow-up was possible. Both during the Kennedy presidency, and technically you could include McCarthy making comments about nuking China, but he didn't really have that authority even in the slightest, and he got canned for it. But now it seems like every 3 to 4 months we are brought to something which could bring about some devastating end to the world, or at least just doesn't seem real to be happening now. What did all that mean? Well, it means we're focusing on shit that doesn't matter and only causes more conflict in a way that just shouldn't exist, and a way that isn't natural. In fact, it's in a way that one might consider delusional as hell. And that brings us back to the conservative outrage against Imane Khelif and the Taiwanese fighter Yu-ting.
Just get to the fucking point.
America's biggest export is its culture. You can go to a tribe in the Amazon that doesn't have electricity, or what most people might consider modern life, and show them an image of Michael Jackson, and they would know exactly who that was. Don't believe me?
Vous savez qui c'est?
Michael Jackson.
Comment vous savez?
J'ai vu une fois à la télé à la ville.
Il y en a combien qui vous connaissent?
People could tell you all the names on the USA basketball team, but unless you're the Greek freak Jokic, Wemby, or on the Canadian team, it is unlikely they could name every other player on their own country's team. And many of the world's countries are gaining politicians who mimic the cult of personality that Donald Trump has spawned for himself in America. Think about Benjamin Netanyahu before his horrible actions involving Gaza have saw his numbers drop, or Rodrigo Duterte in the Philippines, or the Dutch politician Geert Wilders, and hell, even France's own Marine Le Pen. These politicians and their own right-wing supporters have been using America's culture war as a narrative for their own success, including America's war on women's rights and transgender rights. And that has trickled down to the one thing we can all agree reflects society and gives us the heroes many people look up to: sports. And what does the Olympics present to us every 4 years? Sports. And as a result of it, all reflecting society, one of the very dangerous aspects of society are the 2 subjects I just stated. If you ever watch Matt Walsh, you know that the conservatives believe the perfect woman is one who doesn't have an opinion. She stays in the kitchen and does so-called womanly things. She just makes babies and is ready to serve her husband like some sort of fucking cupbearer wife straight from Game of Thrones.
River Run can withstand a siege for a year.
If I want excuses, I'll put her in charge.
They're laughing at us all across the Riverlands, right down to King's Landing.
Meanwhile, men like Matt Walsh all look like Walter fucking Frey's old crusty dusty ass, or evolve into that at some point, and have creepy histories, which show a majority of them are just losers who never took the lesson of evolving beyond your bullying seriously. And men like that are the same men who want to have genital checks throughout American schools and college sports after one female swimmer appeared on the scene, Lia Thomas. She wasn't some outright ass-kicking Michael Phelps out here breaking 1 million records and lapping her competition by 1 million Olympic swimming pools. In an article by The Independent by Dodds, Lia actually proved relatively average as a collegiate swimmer. One might say, and I mean this just in terms of numbers, like no disrespect, she kind of was a struggle bus. Dodds states, let's look first at Miss Thomas's record in the NCAA. While some of her fastest times have been in other competitions, these are the easiest results to access and compare across multiple years and athletes. All statistics in this article are for short course yards, races, meaning they were done in a 25-yard pool. Miss Thomas won the women's 500-yard freestyle race in 4 minutes and 33.24 seconds. She came 5th in the 200-yard race with 1 minute 43.40 seconds, and 8th in the 100-yard race with 48.40 seconds. These were impressive results, but they weren't record-breaking. Though the overall competition saw 27 all-time NCAA records broken, Miss Thomas's times weren't among them. She finished 2nd in the 200 freestyle preliminaries and 10th in the preliminaries for the 100 freestyle. By the time she was done swimming in college, she was not even in the top 10, like the conservative hysteria would lead you to believe. She was 46th in the country. Let's be real, the way conservatives talked about her, she would lap prime Michael Phelps and even challenge Katie Ledecky for female swim goat. And Katie is quite literally the female Aquaman. Like, she is Aquaman. The amount of transgender athletes is such a minority, but practically all of them are either middle of the road or back of the pack, thanks to the lovely process of gender-affirming care. To keep it simple, as the likelihood of someone trans watching this is relatively low due to a low number of trans people worldwide, hormone therapy for trans women absolutely, and I mean utterly, obliterates muscle mass. You have to work out like 3 times harder than the normal guy to keep even a portion of your strength. In fact, you might as well go ahead and say a trans woman, even if a former bodybuilder, in most cases will never match their previous strength without the help of steroids. And that will likely just throw the whole therapy into a chaotic spiral that won't help at all. So even if Imane Khelif was a trans woman, which she wasn't, she would need some next level round-the-clock gender-affirming care and steroids, which would show in her body size and shape in order to force Carini to give up after barely 50 seconds in the ring. Mind you, she likely wouldn't even fit in the class which led Carini and her to end up matching up. Yeah, because the Olympics, just like standard boxing, uses weight classes. This means Carini and Khelif weigh the same. They are in the same height range, with a slight difference, and are similar when it comes to reach. And notice the Olympics didn't ban Khelif or Yu-ting from fighting, or proclaim in some sort of celebration that either was a trans athlete. Something which on a marketing stance makes perfect sense to boost the numbers for them, but didn't happen because it isn't true. Not to mention that this entire conversation is just another shot at women under the proclamation that women are just outright weaker than men. I have seen 3 different instances in my life of a woman fighting a man, and yes, this is entirely anecdotal, but this is my video, and my argument is based off facts to this point. So give me this one chance to talk about my opinion. 2 out of those 3 fights that I have seen between a man and a woman, 2 of those were won by the woman. Okay, and the first one, the woman beat his ass so bad, all you could say was "get good, kid," as he lay there on the ground, questioning his entire life. Okay, the second one, it was awful, but the guy was literally sitting in the car to protect himself from her while a cop was trying to pull her away. and this cop was 2 times her size. Okay, so if you want to run with the narrative that you could beat up every woman, regardless of the, like, situation and conditions, go ahead. It might not end well for you. So what really happened? Karina wasn't him. Despite her experience, despite her career, Khelif was the champion of the fight from the jump. Khelif, a woman, biological woman, came into the finals with the Kobe mentality, okay, and was standing on business from the jump. It was in her mind her match to lose. So leave all of that shit out there. Carini likely didn't warm up right, wasn't in the right mind space, or was just off, and even Carini herself said so, stating after the fight, according to the Daily Mail, "I am not one that easily surrenders. Even if they told me let's not fight, I would not have accepted it. I am a fighter. My father taught me to be a warrior. When I am in the ring, I use that mindset, the mindset of a warrior, a winning mindset. This time I couldn't make it. You all saw my nose that started bleeding. I didn't lose tonight. I just surrendered with maturity. I wish her to carry on until the end and that she can be happy. I am someone who doesn't judge anyone. I am not here to give judgments. I simply entered the ring to fight and to fight for my dream. It didn't happen. Evidently, God and my father wanted this, and I accept it." And even the Daily Mail misread this and ran with their own stupid transphobia narrative, further pushing lies and things which were disproven by the press conference between the IBA, the labs they sent the test off to in 2023, and just the very history of Imane Khelif herself, Algeria's Olympic Committee, and her family.
From heads of state to novelists, coaches to sports science experts, all have their say on the issue that has been the biggest talking point at the Paris Olympics 2024.
إيمان هي بطلة الجزائر والحمد لله يا ربي اللي كيما نقولوا لي الشرف باش عندي بنت كيما هذه بطلة وشرفتني الحمد لله يا ربي ونشجعها وإن شاء الله تجيب لنا الميداي من باري لأن نحوسوا على ميداي
Amir Khelif says Algerian women are known for their courage.
هذه هجومات لا أخلاقية.
علاش؟
لخاطر ظلموها. هذه تربات هنا بنت صغيرة تبغي السبور ملي كان عندها 6 سنين. كانت تلعب هنايا كانت تلعب الفوتبول.
Imane's father claims her official documents prove that she is a female.
الفريد فامي. Le 2 mai 1992 خليف إيمان. هاي وين البنت؟ أنثى. هاي وين البنت أنثى أقرأ ها. هذا ما يكذبش هذا راها في 99 سجلوا فيه. هذو أعداء الله هذو. هذو اللي راهم يكذبوا ودايرين عليها حملة شرسة. هاي وينها.
Not to mention, Algeria is a very transphobic place. Like, why in the living hell would they prop up as their symbol in the Olympics a literal trans person? Maybe a lesbian athlete, maybe. But I highly freaking doubt it, because such hateful thinking often blocks one from the joy and success that such communities can bring along with the benefits of their diversity. But then again, logic is dying in today's world, and hysteria is often the rule of the day. And so with that comes stupidity. Transphobia is literally just a stupid delusion. It's not a real phobia about someone that more than likely you have no involvement with in most cases, and likely someone who isn't even remotely interested in you and just trying to live their own life. Control and inspection of the very essence of what a woman is or what they look like, whether you have an XX chromosome or XY chromosomes, is absolutely idiotic as hell. And it's a sign that you got a serious condition of fucking brain rot. Stop falling for the stupid culture war bullcrap. It's distracted society far too long. As for Carini, this is likely a stain she won't recover fully from. It's a mistake that will follow her forever. I don't blame her for not shaking the hand of Khelif after the fight concluded. Sure, it was unsportsmanlike, but sports often causes a rise of emotions. And maybe it was just one of those moments. But it was a mistake. And due to the stage she was on at the time and the narrative this moment has taken, it will make coming back from it damn near harder than the hit that she took. As for Khelif and Yu-ting, the IBA doesn't define who or what you are. You do. The same way all of us define who we are individually. I don't watch much boxing, but you did what you had to do. You showed up, and you came ready to go, and it showed. And in each bout, you absolutely gave it your all. That's how you're supposed to do it. Enjoy your medals and success, and just keep pushing forward. As for the rest of you, if you're a subscriber, I have a name for you guys. I'm going to call you guys the Logic Gang. I think it just rings and it's awesome. And if you want to join the Logic Gang, you should click that subscribe button, as well as leave a like on this video. If you don't, I will hire Khelif, and I will send her to knock the living shit out of you. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. I don't have those type of funds. Or am I kidding? You never know. Anyways, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!